What's going on, everyone? This is Badass Reviewer, and today I'll be taking a look at the Marvel Legends Infinite Series Rhino Build-A-Figure. This is part of the new Spider-Man wave, which obviously is the Rhino wave. Really cool figure. I really like the way this guy came out. I don't have any other Rhino figures from the previous Toy Biz or the Marvel Select, so I'm pretty happy that I finally have Rhino to add to my Spider-Man Rogues gallery. And it's very cool looking. I definitely think this is one of the nicest looking Build-A-Figures that Hasbro's made, next to the Hulkbuster. I think the detail is really nice, and I think they did a really good job on this. He is quite large, so I'm happy about that. In terms of length, I think he could be a little bit taller, but I mean, he still is pretty substantially big to Spider-Man, and I guess that is an okay size. I'm just kind of thinking long term, because they're going to use the same mold for the Abomination figure coming out probably next year sometime, and if I match them up with the new Hulk figure, which they're pretty much going to use for all their new Hulks, as you can see, they're about the same height, but that's only because of the horn. I think they need to make the legs a little bit longer because they seem kind of stumpy. But for this character, I think it makes sense. But I would like for them to be face to face, so I think he should be a little bit taller. That's just a small gripe on my part, and I'm thinking long term, because Abomination, I always think of him being a little bit bigger than the Hulk. But I guess we'll see what happens in the future. But I'm sure they're just gonna reuse these legs. But we'll see what happens when the time comes. But overall, like I said, the detail is very nice. The sculpting, the paint, I think they really did a good job. And you know, I wish every figure that they put out would look this nice. I think they'd be balling in all sorts of money, because it's just a really nice looking figure. I like all the cracks and the crevices and the bumps on him. It's very nice looking. And then the toes down here are very nicely painted and sculpted. Looking at the back, he's got, like, there's just these huge bumps that protrude from his body. It's crazy. And then all the details, and I really like the shading, the brown that they have shaded through the gray. I think that gives it that extra detail, because rhinos do seem to have a lot of dirt on them, and that's how this guy looks, so I like that a lot. And the muscle definition is very nice. I will say that this torso piece feels very hollow. In fact, it really is. When I first got it out of the package, I was like, damn, this is light. But when you actually put the whole figure together, he's not too heavy, but compared to like the Hulkbuster, he's definitely kind of like a lot lighter. So yeah. And then we didn't even talk about the head sculpt, which I'll try to pop off, which I think is very, not difficult, but I always kind of worry when I do it, because I feel like it's going to break the peg or the little hole that it's going into. So he comes with two heads. I think they're both very nice looking. This one's really creepy. I don't know what the deal is with Hasbro and making their villains look really crazy when they're like making an expression, but there's his berserker kind of, I'm gonna bite your nipples kind of look. This one's more of a, I guess, classic. I don't know if this is a classic or how he looks kind of now, but this one, he's got the mask over his eyes, and he just kind of looks angry, like he's Batman. I'm Rhino Man. But both of them have nice detail. This one seems to have a little bit more detail than this one. I don't know if maybe it's just how they got painted or not, but also they are kind of different looking sculpts. So I guess that's cool, because they're not exactly the same. So there's that. The eyes on this one are kind of crazy. He's got one wandering eye here, and I could have swore before I got this that the Rhino eyes were sculpted onto the sides of his head, but now it's like they just have these dips in the mask where his head is. So I don't know if maybe that was just for the promo pics or not, but I definitely remember seeing like Rhino eyes on the side of his head. So Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw that in promo pics. But anyways, looking inside the mouth, I mean, it's got some pretty crazy detail. Like, you can see his uvula, the tongue's nicely painted, the teeth are nicely sculpted and painted. I mean, they put a lot of detail into this. This one kind of lacks all that, but I mean, it just depends on how you want to display him. Do you want him looking just kind of like he's chill, or do you want him to be like berserker angry? So it's kind of up to you. You can do however you want with them. You just peg that right back in and you're ready to go. You can also take off these shoulder pads here, which I think is how I'm going to display him, because I think he looks cooler that way. The only downside is he's got these holes in his arms, which I can live with. Although having the pads on, the shoulder pads don't look too bad. But this definitely just kind of gives me a more classic kind of look to him, at least of how I remember him growing up. So that's always cool. I don't think that's intentionally what they were trying to do, but a lot of people seem to like it, so works out in the end. Anyways. And even under where the shoulder pads are, there's some detail here. They got the little bubbles and stuff, or the dents and whatnot. So I'm really happy they did a good job with this. It's definitely very nice. That's really all I can say in terms of articulation, or not articulation, but details. I think as you can see, he is quite nice and he's pretty big, so that's a plus side. Looking at articulation, the neck goes down and the head's kind of, well, I don't know, maybe I'm going about this the wrong way, but as you saw with this, the head at the bottom is connected to the neck, so it is rounded out at the bottom, and then the peg is in there with the swivel and the hinge, which just goes down, and then he can get the rotation left and right. But he obviously is not going to go 360 degrees, just because it's kind of down in there, and then the shoulders are coming up. But he does look up a little bit. I wish he kind of looked up a little bit more, but that's okay. I mean, if you get him in a rutting pose, I mean, he's got to look up. He can't just be like, well, I guess he does run around like this, but I mean, he looks up a pretty good amount if you're wanting to look up in a running pose. But yeah, so the articulation is kind of limited, but I think it's okay for the most part. I don't think he doesn't really need to look up too much, but even when he does, with the amount that he does have, he looks up a pretty good amount, especially with the torso. So that's all right with me. The arms go out only about this far due to the sculpting, which is okay. I don't really see a reason why he needs to extend his arms outward any farther, but I guess you could just do that. So the arm will just pop out if you try to push it a little too far. So just watch out for that. Arms go 360 degrees. He's got a bicep swivel, single joint in the elbow, which I don't even think gets a 90 degrees. I think it does. Yeah, it does. So it gets 90 degrees. He's got a hinge and a swivel in the wrist. He's got two fists, which I'm happy with, because it doesn't make sense for him to have open palms, considering he doesn't come with anything to hold. The torso, it's kind of got that Thanos Build-A-Figure syndrome thing going on, where it's really floppy. But he does have one click going forward, and he doesn't go back at all, so that kind of sucks. And I don't really like too well that he flops around like this, but I mean, once you click it, it's fine. He stays in place pretty well, but it does kind of just pop back into that spot pretty easily when you push up, so that's just something to note, but it's not a big problem. He's got a waist swivel, which is nice. It looks really weird though. His legs can go forward and out, so that's about it. He's got this upper thigh swivel. He's got a single joint in the knee, which is very hard because it's got kind of a not necessarily a ratchet, but I guess it's, I don't know, it's just kind of hard to do it. So yeah, he's got that, and then he's got the hinge and pivot in the foot. So not the greatest articulation, but you know, he still gets in some really good poses, and especially with the feet being as big as they are, it gets a really makes them really stable to stand. So you can get him in some pretty nice poses, and a lot of times you're probably either going to have him just kind of standing there, or you're going to have him, you know, in a pose where he's going to run. So at least you can do that. If you couldn't do that, then the figure would suck, but I think for the most part it's great. So overall, I would definitely recommend picking up this figure. Even if you just want the Build-A-Figure, you could go and you know, just buy him complete online and skip all the other figures. Although I do think the Wave is very good for the most part, except for Superior Venom, but he's not too bad. If you had to get him, he's not like the end of the world terrible, but I would try to avoid him at all costs. But anyways, guys, that's my review. I don't know when we're gonna get some more Legends in, but whenever we do, that's when I'll talk to you guys about them next. So I don't know what's coming next. Maybe some Star Wars stuff. I'm not entirely sure yet, but I'll definitely probably have some videos coming up, kind of like updates of what's going on, because I'm in the process of moving out, so we'll see what happens. But anyways, guys, I'll talk to you guys later, and have a great day.